You know, when you think of Anna Karenina, you probably think of romance, tragedy, high society, all that stuff. But we're going to park all of that for a moment. Today, we're diving into this one single chapter where Tolstoy just hits the brakes on the whole story. He throws us right into the middle of a philosophical fight that, believe it or not, is still raging today in labs and lecture halls.
So let's just cut to the chase. What do you think? Is your mind everything you are? Your thoughts, your feelings, your whole sense of you? Is it just a bunch of electricity and chemicals firing in your brain? A really fancy biological computer? Or is there something more to it? This is the exact question that ambushes one of our main characters, and it's what this whole story is really about.
All right, so let me introduce you to Levin. He's this landowner straight from the countryside. A really practical guy, you know? He's much more worried about his crops than he is about abstract philosophy. He just pops into Moscow to see his big brother, and he walks straight into a room thick with tension.
Yeah, Levin has literally just stumbled into a full-blown intellectual war zone. He definitely wasn't looking for a debate, but, well, he's in one now, whether he likes it or not.
So, let's get a look at who's in the room. You've got Levin's brother, Sergey Ivanovich. He's a famous thinker, a real public intellectual. Facing off against him is a visiting professor, a big-shot philosopher. And what are they arguing about? Something they call a crusade against materialism. And then there's our guy, Levin, just sitting quietly in the corner, taking it all in.
So this is the big question they're wrestling with, phrased in the most academic way possible. But what does it really mean? It's simple, really. Where does your body stop and your mind begin? Are they totally separate? Or is your mind just another function of your body, kind of like your stomach digesting food?
And that brings us right to the heart of it, the two camps in this age-old battle. It is the classic showdown, mind versus matter. Okay, so all their fancy talk really boils down to this. On one side, you have Sergey. He's arguing for the psychological view, that our consciousness, our feeling of being me, is something more than just what our five senses tell us. But on the other side, the professor is all about the physiological view. For him, the mind is basically an illusion created by our senses. If you don't have senses, you don't have a mind. That's it.
But for Levin, sitting over there in the corner, this isn't just some intellectual game. He starts hearing these ideas and immediately connects them to the biggest questions there are. You know, what's the point of it all? What happens after we die? All of a sudden, this really dry academic debate feels incredibly personal to him.
But you know, as the argument just goes on and on, Levin's fascination starts to turn into frustration. I mean, these two brilliant guys just seem to be talking right past each other. They're not getting anywhere near the actual point.
And Tolstoy puts it perfectly here. He says, the whole thing gets lost in this fog of jargon and quoting other famous dead guys and making these tiny, nitpicky points. It's not a search for truth anymore. It's more like they're just showing off how smart they are.
And you can really feel Sergey's passion here. He's saying, look, I know I exist, and that feeling didn't come through my eyes or my ears. It's something deeper, an internal thing. He's basically saying, I feel it in my gut.
And this is what's driving Levin nuts. He can see it happening. Every single time they get close to the real question, the one he actually cares about, they back off. They just dodge the raw, scary, existential heart of the issue and retreat back to their safe academic bubble.
So finally, Levin just can't take it anymore. This practical man, this farmer, decides he's got to cut through all of this intellectual noise with one simple, direct question. And there it is. Boom! No fancy words, no quoting anyone, just the most human question imaginable. Levin asks what actually matters. If I'm dead, if my body is gone, am I just gone? Is there nothing left? He just puts the one question they were so carefully avoiding right on the table.
Levin's question just completely shatters the mood in the room. The game is over. He's basically forced them to stop playing with ideas and actually face what they mean in the real world.
But the professor? Oh, he's just annoyed. He kind of looks down his nose at Levin, like this profound question is somehow simple or childish. He basically pats it on the head and tells him to leave the thinking to the grown-ups.
And the professor's official answer is a complete and total shutdown. He says science just doesn't have enough data yet. See what he did there? In one move, he takes this huge, profound human mystery and turns it into a boring technical problem that we just haven't solved yet.
And just like that, all the energy just fizzles out of the room. The professor gets up and leaves, and this huge, grand debate about the very nature of existence, it just stops. The moment's gone. The change is so fast, it's almost funny.
The second the professor is out the door, Sergey doesn't sit there thinking about the big questions. Nope. He turns to Levin and asks about farming. And just like that, they're back to talking about the real world, money, land, getting married.
And this right here is Tolstoy's big point. This huge philosophical quest is just instantly forgotten. Why? Because the practical stuff of life, running a farm, finding a wife, it just takes over. It really makes you wonder, what was the point of all that talk to begin with?
So Levin walks away thinking that these intellectuals have some kind of mental infirmity. They can talk and talk forever, but they couldn't answer the one simple question that actually mattered. And it leaves us with a question for ourselves, doesn't it? In our own lives, with all the noise and endless debates, when does all our thinking actually help us find the truth? And when does it just become a really clever way to avoid life?